Hiya, welcome back to the Destination Baby Kids YouTube channel. This is Gina, I am your host. We are going to do a video today talking about the differences between those fabulous NUNA Convertible / all-in-one car seats you see behind me. That's right, today we're going to lay out the REV, the Rava, and the Exec. All three fabulous car seat choices from NUNA. Now, if you haven't yet, go ahead, like, follow, subscribe. If it makes sense to share this video, share it with someone. Sharing is caring. And the best way that you could show support for this channel, other than like, follow, subscribe, is to head on over to my website, destinationbabykids.com. I'm a real brick and mortar store here in the greater San Francisco Bay Area. I can send you any of these NUNA seats directly to your home, free shipping, very easily. So if that is appealing to you, or you want to check out other colors, prices, statistics, again, head over to destinationbabykids.com. You can take care of all of your purchases there and even see more fabulous things. Now, let's launch into the differences between these fabulous NUNA Baby car seats. So these three guys that you see here, these are all convertible car seats from NUNA. And a convertible car seat means that it converts from being rear-facing to forward-facing. The other part of this conversation, just to be fair, is that the Exec, which is the tan one sitting in the chair right now, it's actually shown in a color called biscotti, that is also going to be a belt positioning booster seat. So we're going to talk about that too, because these are the differentiations between these seats. If you haven't watched any of my car seat videos, I would encourage you to maybe familiarize yourself a little bit more. This is going to be a little bit more technical than some of the other videos that we do, but that's okay. This is for people that really want to know and understand the big nitty-gritty differences between these seats. Now, all three of these seats are going to have a 10-year expiration. That's going to be the same between all three. All three seats have a 2-year standard warranty from NUNA Baby. That's going to be the same on all three. The other thing that's the same on all three is they all will include 2 cup holders in the purchase price. I may not show the cup holders in the video, but they are all going to include that. Now, that being said, on the tan seat, which is the biscotti seat here, I've removed the infant padding already. And I've also removed the infant padding from the NUNA Rava, which is shown here in a color called Monterey. So Rava's in the gray, Exec is in the tan, and the Rev is in the black, which NUNA calls caviar. This guy I've left the infant padding in, and we'll get into that in just a second of why I've done that. All right, so we've talked about the things that are similar between these seats. Let's talk about things that are going to be different. So something that's going to be different between all three is how wide they are. Your narrowest is the Exec. That's going to be about 17.5 inches. Then we'll move on to Rev. That is going to be about 18 inches wide, and then your Exec is your Rava, which is the gray one here. Rava in the Monterey is going to be the widest at 19 inches. They all have side impact protection, so that are pieces built onto the side of the seat. With the Rava, you do pull them out, but on Rev and Exec, they're just already in the correct mode, ready to go. So just things to be aware of there. Now, between these three seats, they're all going to do backward facing as well as forward facing. So let's actually start with the Rev. No, let's start with the Rava, because the Rava of the three options is probably my least favorite. I'm just going to be super upfront about that. It's not for a million different reasons, but there's a few reasons why I probably prefer Exec or Rev over Rava, but everybody's different. So you can decide what works best for your lifestyle. Rava is going to be $680, and Rava is going to go backward from 5 pounds with that infant padding that does come with it. It will remain a backward facing car seat all the way through 50 pounds. So this seat does a great job of what's referred to as extended rear facing. When this sits in the car, and let me do my best here to maybe roll this back, pull this guy over slightly so you all can see. When this one goes in the car in a rear-facing mode, you will recline it. So the seat does have recline. There is a panel on the inside of the seat that will open up, and you're either going to run your lower anchors through that blue door, or you're going to run your seatbelt through that blue door for installation. I already have this one sort of pre-set up for a lower anchor install. I also broke the seatbelt on this seat earlier today, so showing it with lower anchor is probably going to make the most sense. We install the seat on both sides, and again, you've got to make sure you have enough material to actually get it to go into the lower anchor. And again, every car 2003 and newer has the lower anchors included in the price. So the seat will go in. you'll go ahead and tighten that strap for your lower anchors, and then you close that door that we just opened prior to installation. So now the seat's installed. I'll pull on the seat, scoot it side to side, make sure it's not moving more than an inch from its installation point. And with those lower anchors, I'd be good to go installed in our backward mode. Now, again, this guy is going to face in this backward facing mode from 5 pounds to 49 standing inches, all the way through the 16.5 inches of torso height. So I would encourage anybody to leave a child rear facing until they max out what the seat says. So again, you could have a kiddo as big as 50 pounds backward sitting in here, provided they still were under the seated torso harness height and had an inch of head on the top of the seat. It's kind of a basic seat in that it is very plush, very safe, but it doesn't have a million additional safety features. So again, no anti-rebound panel on this option, which is a little bit disappointing at its price point. But when you're ready to turn the seat forward, right? So let's say your kiddo is 3 years old and they're 35 pounds and you want to turn the seat forward facing, you're going to be able to do that. The minimum requirement for this seat to turn forward facing is that your kiddo would have to be at least 30 pounds and they would need to be at least 2 years old. So after 2 years old and 30 pounds, you can take the seat out of your car, you'd sit it more upright into its upright facing mode, and instead of that lower door where the anchors are running through right now, there's a secondary red door that you open up, and that's why there's a red piece on the side that we're going to come through right here for our lower anchors. And I will explain about this in 1 second before anybody gets mad and starts going to the comments. And then again, with a forward-facing seat, you always do the top tether, which is this guy here, and hooks on essentially to the back of your vehicle seat. I'm not going to hook that up right now because we're going to do this kind of rapidly just to show you all at home. It's a relatively straightforward installation. And again, you would tighten by pulling on the strap, putting a little weight in there, and then you close the door. So now that's closed, we close the other door. And now our seat is set up for an older child. So again, a backward-facing car seat is always 80% safer than when the seat is turned into a forward-facing mode, even if it's correctly installed, even if it has additional safety features. Your crummiest backward seat, or any seat in the backward mode, is 80% safer than the seat in the forward-facing mode. So for forward-facing, the seat will hold 30 through to 65 pounds in the 5-point harness. Now, the seat is about 11 inches interior width. You also will have, like I said, the 16.5 inches of seated torso height. There's 2 crotch positions here, 4 inches and 6 inches. So you have that adjustable crotch piece, which is nice. And again, standing height, it'll go all the way through to 49 standing inches. So that is going to be your $680 seat from NUNA. That is strictly a convertible seat, so just faces backward and forward. But again, you could start with this seat from birth if you wanted to with all of that newborn padding. Now, let's talk about that. If you actually wanted to start with a larger size seat from birth, I probably wouldn't start with Rava, personally. My choice for that from NUNA would be the REV rotational seat. So this seat is going to be different than the other ones that we looked at because this seat is way smaller than the Rava or the Exec. Price point on this guy is only $600. Why is that? Well, the biggest reason why it's so inexpensive is that it holds a much smaller body. So this seat can start at 5 pounds. In the backward-facing mode, it'll hold up to 30 pounds. The other seats that we talked about held up to 50 pounds. Those other seats also hold 49 standing inches in rear-facing mode. This seat only holds 34 inches in rear-facing mode. I looked it up. That should take them through their 2nd birthday into their 3rd year, but this seat is not going to be as good for what is referred to as extended rear-facing as Exec would be or as Rava would be. Now, counter to that, I would argue this seat might be more functionally useful for you to use than the other 2 seats. So let's talk about that. What makes this one special? Well, as I mentioned, we've got our infant padding in here. I don't have this installed just yet, but to show the viewing audience at home what makes this guy so great is that I'm going to be able to turn this toward the door, take my baby in and out, and then have it be rear or forward facing without having to redo any installation. So I'm able, every single time that I want to take my kiddo in and out, I'm able to have it be door facing, do all of the harness adjustment facing the door. Once I get them nice and tight, I would turn it to be rear facing, and then I would go on with my day. Exec does not turn toward the door, and Rava does not turn toward the door, which is why this product is named Rev, Revolution, Rotation. So this one is a 360-degree rotating car seat. Now, the drawback of the seat, as I mentioned, is going to be that it is a shorter torso height. It's a narrower interior width of the seat. That makes sense, right? Because this is not meant to hold a kid as big as the other two seats. So this guy, in the backward mode holds 30 pounds, and in the forward mode only holds from 30 to 40 pounds. I actually kind of enjoy that because they've done a nice job forcing people to max out the rear facing on this seat before they can turn it forward facing. Like your kiddo has to be both 34 standing inches and 30 pounds before NUNA says go ahead and have your kiddo ride forward facing. Now the other part of this seat that I cannot stress enough that makes it very, very different than the other NUNA convertible seats is that this is going to be the only seat with adjustable recline while it's installed. So again, I don't have it installed right this second. I can probably do that super quickly if I want to. The problem is my seatbelt's broken, and if I pull out the anchors from underneath, it's going to take a minute. So you guys are just going to have to trust what I'm saying. But the idea is, if your kiddo is in here and you're driving and they fall asleep, every single parent always asks, well, once they fall asleep, I want to recline the car seat. So how do I do that? None of the car seats have a functional recline while they are installed unless they're a rotating car seat. And I will even say unless they are a 360-degree rotating car seat, that's like a high-end car seat. Because your lower-end 360 rotating car seats really don't have the same kind of functional recline that you're going to see here. So what do I mean by that? Kiddo's awake, you're driving, they fall asleep, you want to recline the seat. You don't have to do anything special. You just come here, you squeeze a handle, and the seat reclines. They wake up and you want them to be more upright, squeeze the handle, press it, they're more upright. And the very cool thing about this is that that is going to be in the forward-facing mode too. So big kid falls asleep, you want them a little bit reclined, you're going to have that option here, and you can also scoot them into being more upright, functionally with them installed. Every single time, we don't have to take the seat in and out to adjust that recline position. So if you were going to say, well, I actually have a NUNA Rava and I changed the recline with it installed, go in the book. You are not supposed to be doing that. That is not the way that that seat is intended to be used. And I'd also argue you probably don't have it installed tightly enough if you're actually able to get any kind of recline whatsoever when that thing is installed. So here, the installation is just as simple on the other guys. In fact, might even be easier. And you also have this option of switching between different age children without reinstallation. So let's say I'm an aunt and I'm taking the newborn somewhere and I drop it off. Now I'm going to take the 3-year-old somewhere. This seat can switch seamlessly in between children, height adjustment as well, infant padding as well, all included in that $600 purchase price. So I am very, very fond of this seat. I understand it doesn't hold as much weight and height as what most people want, but realistically, I would argue most kids at about age 3 or 4 anyway probably would stand to benefit from a combination seat over a convertible seat, and you can watch the video about that as well. So this seat just sets you up really nicely for a combination seat. NUNA makes a fabulous combination seat called a Lumen. So after you did this, you could do a Lumen and you'd just be in great shape. So that is going to be what is a little bit different about this Rev. Again, only 15 inches of seated torso height. We have 2 crotch positions here. The crotch positions on Rev are going to be 3 inches and 5 inches. So again, for smaller kiddo. Overall width is 18, which is great. Still wouldn't recommend this for a 3 across. I never recommend rotating seats for 3 across because you have to have enough room to actually be able to rotate the seat. So again, it's a little bit narrower than Rava, which is really, really nice, and a really good installation, very easy. So let's move on to Exec. This is a great all-in-one car seat. So all-in-one car seats are different than convertible car seats because an all-in-one car seat is going to go backward, it'll turn forward, and then it does what is called turning into a high back belt positioning booster. So this seat has more functionality than the other two seats in terms of the various modes that it offers. So again, in our backward facing mode, I've got my lower anchors out here. This seat also comes with the most. So it's going to come with 2 sets of infant inserts. It comes with a liner for older kids so that if they're putting their feet on this, you can just take that out and wash that instead of all of the material, which honestly more seats should offer. It's a brilliant piece, especially if they're like disgusting and eating food and getting crumbs down in the butt of the seat. You can just take that part out super easily and wash it. So that is a really nice feature. Again, it has that 2-door installation. So right now it's running through the blue door. I've installed my lower anchors. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the seat up. And then I'll close that door. And now this seat is installed. Again, this seat has an anti-rebound panel. It's very important for me. Your REV has that as well when it's in rear facing mode. All that means is if we're driving this way and we stop and we surge in that direction, and this seat will surge down too, it won't have a recoil back because this plate prevents it from moving up that way. Your REV will be that way too. Rava does have more movement because it doesn't include an anti-rebound plate in the US. If you're watching in Canada, your Rava does include it. So if you like that, go for it there. Again, in the US, it's different. So in our backward facing mode, this seat will go from 5 pounds up to 50 pounds. This is also the narrowest of the 3 options. This is 17 inches wide. So if we're gonna do like 3 across, this is a really great choice for that. The harness here too holds a taller body than Rava or REV. So the harness component on Exec will hold, I believe it's 17.5 inches. Let's just double check that because I did write it down. Yep, 17.5 inches is what I measured. And then our interior of the seat is around 11 inches. So you also have 3 crotch positions on Exec, which makes sense because we're going from backward to forward to booster. And so those are 2.5, 4, and 5.5 inches, 3 different positions. Again, all 3 of these seats are that 10-year expiration and that 2-year warranty. Now, when you turn Exec around to be forward facing, it's gonna have more features than Rava did. Now, as I mentioned, this is not a seat that rotates toward the door. So every time we're taking kiddo in and out, we're turning them in a more traditional sense. Not the end of the world. When we go forward, the seat will sit upright. And again, there is a spectrum of recline on both the Rava and the Exec for in forward-facing mode, but that is something that you preset prior to installing the seat, and it's not something that's easily adjustable on the fly. Now, what is easily adjustable on the fly on this seat is this foot panel. So you can have this out to be supportive of their feet. It can come down like this for a kiddo that's just a longer-legged kiddo that needs a deeper seat situation going on with more support. So it's a very, very nice feature that they have that adjustable foot plate. Same thing holds true here for installation on all 3 of them. You are absolutely going to do your top tether, which attaches to the back of your seat. And then I would argue for this guy or for Rava, you're probably going to be more successful doing a seatbelt installation than lower anchor. We didn't talk about lower anchor latch limits, but on all 3 seats, the lower anchor limit is 35. And again, on REV, that won't matter because your backward facing is 30. So REV, you can use lower anchor backward and forward the entire time. With Exec and with Rava, 35 pounds rear facing lower anchor limit and 40-pound forward facing lower anchor limit. So all that means is that once your kiddo gets past that weight, you should not use the lower anchors as your primary method of installation. You should use the seatbelt exclusively as your method of installation, probably all the way through on the seat. But again, we just demonstrated with the lower anchors because I broke my seatbelt earlier. Now, again, you'd run your belt through the same place as the other guy. There's a red door. There's red on the side of the seat. And that shows you where the belt would go through. It would click in, and then you would press down to clamp it on. And then you're also going to pull your seatbelt all the way out and let it retract back in to lock it off for those specific seats. This guy, as I mentioned, a little bit bigger, longer seated harness height, which is really helpful, and overall deeper and wider. So as kiddo gets bigger, this one does the backward 5 to 50, Forward, 26.5 to 65 with the 5-point harness. And then 5-point harness actually goes away, tucks into essentially the interior of the seat. This is a really fast and bad way of showing this, but just pretend it's all the way in there. And then for an older child, what happens is you use the seat belt with what's referred to as a belt guide that's included here on the seat, and the belt guides are actually really easy to use. And this seat belt would go across kiddo's body and provide what is referred to as a high back belt positioning booster. So it positions the seat belt properly across the child's body instead of using that race car style 5-point harness that you saw that was there before. So we'd get rid of that harness. We would use this just with the seat belt. We could also lower anchor it in so that it doesn't fly all over the place, but definitely a really nice feature that Exec includes that the other guys will not include. And so the thing that I'd say about the booster seat story here is that your booster seat harness height for the seatbelt is 18 to 18.5 inches. Why does that matter? Once they outgrow this harness height at 17.5 inches, they really only have about an additional inch of seated torso height with this seat as a booster. That's not a ton. Why do I point this out? You may end up buying an additional booster beyond this anyway, and I would also argue I don't like seats that turn into boosters because generally speaking, by the time the kid is ready for a booster seat, they don't want to be in the same car seat that they've been in their entire life. And their peers are getting different seats and maybe they want a different seat. Now, NUNA does a great job because they offer 2 seats that I think do a better job for larger bodied kids than Exec. But if you like that concept of one and done, Exec is definitely going to be the NUNA car seat for you. So hopefully this video helps clear up some of those differences. Again, if you have questions or comments, want to see colors, pricing, styles, anything, leave a comment below, see which one you think you'd like best, and if you want to buy one, head on over to my website, destinationbabykids.com. You can buy any 3 there. You can see the colors. And again, thank you so much for watching, and check out my video explaining the difference between the Exec, the Lumen, and the NUNA Ace.